Okay, good morning, folks, and welcome to Swing Trading Today. This is Bob Desmond, and it is 6:01 in the a.m. Eastern Standard Time, June the 10th. All right, today we're going to have a lot of news coming out. I expect a lot of volatility. The CPI will be out this morning. That's a consumer price index. It's funny. I laugh every time I see this one. Federal budget, as if we have a budget. That means nothing. It means zero. It means nada. FOMC announcement. We know there's not going to be a rate hike. It's going to be all about guidance. It's going to be all about Jay Powell's press conference. Does he fumble or does he stick to the script? And what's concerning is something I've mentioned in the past, and it's beginning to creep in to the news flow now. The media is aware that the only way that the president is not reelected. Good morning, Chuck. Good morning, Sam. Sam, it's been a while. How are things over in Italy? The only way the president does not get elected is through the stock market correcting. And that's one of my major concerns. What will they do? And if nothing is shown itself to be truer, is that the left will do anything in their power. Social disruption, murder, it doesn't matter. They will do anything to keep the president from getting reelected, whether you like him or not. It's wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. I don't care. I didn't go against Obama. I couldn't stand the son of a gun. Good morning, Oliver. Good to hear, Sam. So, Jones trading, at what point will Powell realize he has broken the market's pricing mechanism? Can't argue with the guy. You can't argue with the guy because the higher we go, the more probability that we are going to get a crash. This is a chart of bankruptcies. Chesapeake we've been talking about, Hertz we've been talking about. And these stocks have been surging. Granted, CHK pulled back dramatically yesterday, but they're surging on speculation. What don't these young traders get? Now, deep state to Powell. Stop goosing stocks higher or you'll reelect Trump. Listen, you had a defense secretary that came out and went against the president of the United States publicly without consulting him about putting troops on the street. At what point does Powell begin to buckle? Today could be that day. We have to keep an open mind. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist. I'm being a realist. So watch the news flow. Watch for shots being taken at Powell and pressuring him to do the opposite of what he has been doing that's been keeping this market aloft. And if he folds, if he bends, if he wavers in any way, this market is on such frail footing that you're going to see it go and go hard. We could have our second crash of 2020. Good morning, Kat. How you been? Hello. Good morning. GME, we'll go over in a minute. I don't think there's much downside there, Low. Kat, good morning. Pat, good morning. NY Jets, good morning. Let's go to the pre-market activity. I know you are, brother. Welcome aboard. Yesterday we did a trade on GME. It was an earnings trade, big short interest, and I took a look at the charts, and a lot of the news, the negative news, was already forecast into the shares. And looking at the recent news, and so I said, you know what? Big short interest, they're reporting earnings, and I normally don't do earnings trades. And so I said, let's put a trade on here and see whether or not we get a surprise to the upside and then a possible short squeeze. And I sat in on the conference call, which began around 5 o'clock, and for the most part, there was no negative news. The one positive is that their online sales growth, and honestly, I would have sold it on that brief rally that we had after hours, were it not for their online sales growth, which grew about over 500%. Now, granted, that's an offset from their walk-in store traffic, but it's interesting to see that they're growing their online sales, and it was up 500%, but their distribution centers were down a good portion of the shutdown, yet they was not able to fulfill online orders, yet they were able to still grow online sales. So I'm going to hold on to this one. If we break down below, I don't know, if we break down below 425, I just may stop out. There's no real reason to make this an investment, unless, of course, we see a setup here that comes our way, setting us up for a big short squeeze. Again, there are a lot of shorts in the name. If we see a reversal and a move higher, I may even add to it. But right now, I'm more prone to, if we see get flat on the trade, close it out. Or if we manage to see a reversal on the day, a strong day on volume, maybe we'll just look to stay long, because again, I don't think there's much downside here, despite the fact we're down slightly in the pre-market. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And the reason is, if you take a look at the weekly chart, and again, remember, if you take a look, I'm not going to bore everyone. If you take a look at the weekly chart, knowing that a lot of the negative news was announced prior to earnings, they were very, very good at forecasting the bad news in advance. And this is a daily chart. Let's go to a weekly chart. You can see that we have higher lows building here on RSI, higher lows on Stokes. Obviously, we've rallied off the lows. We've pulled back off the highs. And now it appears as though we're putting in a higher low. So we'll see how we close out this session. Right now, I have a stop loss in mind about 4.25. I may move that down a little bit, depending on volume. You know, I need to get a feel for how the markets are trading and how volume is rolling in. If we see serious distribution, then I'm just going to close it out. If we see light volume, then just pushing it to the downside. I know there's shorts to be squeezed. We may move that stop down to just below this low here. And if we break 3.96, we'll just get out. So I'm not in love with it. If we have an opportunity to close flat, I just may do that. BZUN, we'll take a look at that one. Sam, we'll go to the dollar in a moment. I know the dollar's been really, really weak. And, you know, what do you expect, right, with the Fed's actions? And if the CPI comes in hot, you could expect the dollar to get weaker. That's Bayozun, right? If memory serves, BZUN. All right, let's go to the futures market. Then we'll take some requests. Let's begin with the E-minis. They were up when I went to bed last night. And now they are down. So we could say that this is volatility in advance of Powell today. But I want to know if we have put in on this 4-hour chart a lower high and then a break to lower lows. Looking at The NASDAQ 100, as usual, they are up, but coming off the highs. So the typical leadership is back. Remember that it was the beaten down, quote unquote, value stocks that had taken a leadership role for a few days. That didn't last long. Here we go. Here we have problems. This is the Russell 2000. Same deal here as with the S&P 500. I want to know if we take out the lows, because we have a lower high, lower high. And a lower low. Let's take a look at the dollar. Yeah, the dollar, which had managed this time yesterday morning, which had managed to recapture the primary upper band of support, just dropped like a rock down below it. We're holding the secondary support level. I will point out, though, that let's get rid of this. I will point out that we are hooking up on RSI. And we are trading within a channel here. With higher lows. So the dollar's, yes, definitely down, but it may be the beginning of a consolidation here. But longer term, I think that the dollar's in deep trouble. The only thing that's saving the U.S. dollar right now is the fact that the European Union is such a mess. Not that we are not disintegrating down to that level. The 10-year yield, or the bond price, not the yield, continues to move up higher this morning. So the rally off of last Friday's lows continues. So that means that yields are pulling back. It means that you're going to want to avoid the banks very, very short term anyway. And they came a long way very, very quickly. The VIX. I spoke about this in great detail last night with members as being one of my major concerns. Besides the speculative nature of this market, people, these Robinhood traders buying up bankrupt stocks, I don't know what they're thinking. Now you're seeing the VIX trade up along with the S&P 500 closing up. We saw that just before the big crash. And here we are, moving up higher now with a 27 handle on the VIX. So we're in a dangerous spot here. So my point to members last night was we spoke about stops, keeping cash on the sidelines just in case we need to get short the market. or to take advantage of a pullback, but yet have an exit strategy set. Don't fall victim, as many did during the February-March sell-off. Bitcoin, still lethargic trade. Nothing happened here. It's like it hasn't moved in a couple of days. Gold. Gold continuing to press higher. We had broken out on Monday, did a retest. Actually broke out on Sunday evening. Retest on Monday. We're stalling out here a little bit. So we'll watch this ascending wedge formation on gold. I would love to buy the miners. The chart's still not attractive enough yet. Let's go to silver. Silver had flashed a bullish reversal bar off of support the day before last. Yesterday, no follow through, and it closed down on the day. Oh, what am I doing wrong here today? Where is silver? There we go. All right, the head and shoulders setup we spoke about yesterday on silver, 4-hour chart, continues to develop. It doesn't mean it's going to break. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Here would be my tripwire to get out, which we're flirting with right now. And here you'd have to be out at the 1720 mark on silver. That would be a complete resolution to this head and shoulders setup, and it wouldn't be a positive outcome. So silver under a lot of pressure here this morning. All right, let's go to, in short, folks, before we go into the trading day, I think what we're seeing here is a lot of, the market's come a long way very quickly. In many areas, it is extended. And a lot of these high flyers are pulling in Beyond Meat. And everybody's waiting to see what Jay Powell has to say. Will he continue to provide the rocket fuel to keep this party going? That's the key question. All right, let's go to Bayozon. BZUN. Let's see how good my memory is. Yeah, Bayozon, yep. Okay. I traded this so many years ago. This was an extreme oversold stock. I don't know, at RSI like 10, and I traded it. All right, so a monthly chart. I think Powell is a Republican. I think he is. I think that Powell came into office, low, with a lot of good intentions. I think he wanted to do the right thing. And I think at the time, because Yellen was only around for a short period into President Trump's term, I think at the time, the president really didn't get how it was necessary to have cheap money to keep this market aloft. And he hired Powell to do what Powell wanted to do initially, which was to normalize the balance sheet. Then Trump realized, holy crap, if I don't have enough liquidity out there, I'm in big, big trouble. And that's when he started laying into Powell. And ultimately, Powell got the message. All right, so what I'd be looking for here on Bison is a breakout on a monthly basis. And I was asked yesterday, why do I always write possible? Why is it always possible, Bob? It's because it depends upon the time that we're watching the chart. Like right now, it's only the 10th. So we're a third of the way through the month. And we're talking about a monthly chart breakout. So if it happens today, it really doesn't mean all that much to me, because it doesn't mean we're going to close there. However, if we close above monthly support or resistance at current on the 28th, that looks interesting to me, because we're very, very close to that breakout being in the books. Right now, anything could happen. Let's go to a weekly chart. You can see last week it looked really, really good. In fact, we were trading above resistance. Now we were rejected this week. You can see that we have a big, for whatever reason, here we go. You can see, let's go to the weekly chart. I think it shows itself better. We have a very wide trading range here on a weekly basis. If you get a pullback to 26, let's call it 26.50, because this is rising, the support level, you could look to enter at that point. Right here, you had a W formation, a higher low. Here's your pivot point. If we manage to close out the week above 33.72, you could look to open up a position with a stop loss just below. But we need to close above 33.72. I would not buy right here, right now, because at current, we're failing to hold that support level. The Stokes look good. RSI looks good. Daily chart. Yeah. I think you're probably going to see lower lows here and a good chance of filling of the gap at around $30 per share. Okay. Keep it active for a couple of days. And I would set it and forget it. You have your alerts set. Here's alert number one. If we break out and above support, great. I mean, resistance, great. If we don't, fine. Let it come to you. Let it come down here. But I see no rush whatsoever to get involved with the trade. All right. I have about 4 minutes to go. Kat, we'll take a look at your Netflix. All right, so Kat, you have a question here. Possible Head and Shoulders setup on Netflix? Daily chart, I'm assuming? No, I don't know whether or not I'd call it a Head and Shoulders setup. So daily chart. Mm, 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 mm. I think it's a bit. I see what you're saying here. I think it's a bit premature to call it a Head and Shoulders setup. If we develop further here and we approach this 449 mark and we begin to top out and then begin to roll over, then I could see your point. But I would not wait for what would evidently be a, let's go to the annotated chart. See, this is the way I would look at it, because I'd be worried more about where do I put my stop loss. Because if you're using a parameter or a formation as like a Head and Shoulders setup to identify where you're going to put your stop loss, it's going to be all the way down here, because you'd have a 3 handle, maybe low 4s before you stopped out. Me, what I would rather do is identify the pattern, which is a triangle formation, which it just broke out of. And if we fail to hold this 420 mark, I would be out, because that would be a breakout point failure. I wouldn't even worry about us coming down and taking out this lower band of a neckline, because that would be too sizable a loss. If we fail, again, to hold, it's actually even higher, 421, 422, thereabouts, and we close back down into this trading range, then these lower bands of support are then going to be threatened. But at current, the shares look pretty good. How was volume yesterday? It was okay. So I hope that helps. I'm not seeing necessarily a Head and Shoulders setup yet, but that could change. Blockchain, good morning. Good morning, Bob. Question, is there any way to forecast sector rotation? Thanks. Yeah. So we did it with we did it with the airlines and the industrials a couple of weeks ago because the trip queues got way ahead of themselves, and we were looking at the value stocks, quote unquote value stocks, and kind of anticipated that what they were going to do was, because the trip queues had come so far so fast, they needed to keep the markets going. So we started taking a look at, because as a matter of fact, this is what we brought up. This is the exact chart. We were seeing, this is the performance of the S&P 500 relative to the trip queues. And obviously, this was nuts. It was unsustainable. The trip queues are just blowing the doors off of the S&P 500. And so in mid-May, we were looking at a reversal bar, and I said, you know what? What they're going to do here is they're going to have to give the trip queues a break because we've stopped going down on the S&P 500 relative to the S&P 500. More than likely, they're going to move these names up. Watch the airlines. We bought LUV. We bought Boeing because we wanted to get along with the industrials, and we took advantage of it. So I guess when you're in an environment where you have one sector so dominant, and you're looking at another and really reaching overbought levels, and you have other sectors out there that are heavily shorted, you can predict that at some point in time, to keep the party going, that they're going to try to move those shares up higher of those names that are heavily shorted. And that'll allow the leaders to take a rest. And then when the heavily shorted get tired, as they recently did, then the trip queues or the recent leadership begins to rally yet again. And this is predictable. It's best to stay diversified. You never know exactly what the new leadership is going to be in the very short term. But it was kind of predictable that energy was going to rally. Not that trade worked out for us. It did not. But Boeing certainly worked out for us in a very big way. The airlines totally worked out. The one sector I'm looking at right now as possibly seeing some rotation into is, or are, the utilities. But even this week, you're seeing some topping action here. So I hope that helps. But it's really having your pulse on the market and having a feel for when the leadership is getting tired, when they need a rest. Is there an appetite? Is there still the rocket fuel out there to keep the market going? And if so, okay, then where's money going to flow into to keep the party going? Always look to your most heavily shorted names. You're welcome, blockchain. All right, with that, folks, I'm going to say everybody have a profitable trading day. And I will talk to you tomorrow morning and tomorrow night, Thursday Night Stock Charts Live. Until then, be well.